All right, peace and blessings, and welcome to another episode of the Author Spotlight here on Self-Published in 30 Days. My name is Rob YB Youngblood. I serve as the president of sales for Self-Published in 30 Days, and I am here with Ayana Henderson, the capacity coach. And right before we hit the record button, we just have a little jokey joke about her name, because if you attempt to find Ayana Henderson on social media, you will not find her, right? So let's kick off with that, right? So what? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ayana. Tell us about who you are and a little bit about your background. And what was this conviction that came about you? Let's start off with that.
It's too funny. So on social media, my name is Ayana Maia, which is my middle name. But as I was writing the book and I was deciding how I was going to be sort of as the author, how I wanted my name to present.
Yeah.
And I went to start to write Ayana Maia, and God was like, aren't you married? I was like, yes.
Ooh.
He always convicts me like, before you do the thing.
Yeah.
Let me just run this by you.
Yeah,
like,
let me just let you know. Yeah, let me just let you know. You can do whatever you want to do, but let me just let you know. Okay, I like that.
And so when my husband and I were getting married, one of the things that God gave him as a sign was, and I hope I don't mess the story up, but when he changed the name of Sarah, her name was Sarai. And then he took off the I and added the H.
Right.
And so that was sort of his divine anointing on her. And so when I married my husband, my last name was Neal. And he took that off and he added Henderson, and my initials became AH. And I was like, oh. So now whenever I'm publishing anything or I'm putting things out there, it's always going to be under Henderson. I'm always going to bear that name, and I'm always going to carry that name with the dignity that it's supposed to have.
I love it.
So, when I'm talking to people, it's Ayana Maia. Most people don't pronounce it correctly anyway, which is fine.
Yeah.
So Ayana Henderson works. It's still me.
Yeah.
But it's just how I put myself out to the world. But to find me on any of the social media platforms, I do go by the capacity coach.
Okay. We're gonna get to that part. We're gonna get to that part in a minute. So tell us, what's the name of your book and what is your book about?
So my book is called Girl, You Are a Warrior: A Battle Plan to Reclaim Your Voice, Your Value, and Your Purpose. And it was birthed out of my darkest moment. It was in 2016, and I wanted to take my life. I had just been remarried. So I'm on my second marriage. I have 4 children from the previous marriage, and I had just given my life to Christ. And all at once, God started showing me my character, because I prayed and asked him to. My marriage was it was off to a very rocky start. And I was fighting God and fighting my husband at the same time. And then I was also trying to deal with the aftermath of being divorced and the co-parenting struggle. And I just found myself with the weight of the world on my shoulders, and that was it. And I was in the kitchen, and I had tucked my kids, like I took them to my mom's house. I mapped out my insurance plans and everything. Like I was set. This was the decision. I was better off not being here and my kids having a chance at having some sort of decent upbringing than being brought up by a broken mom. That was my belief. And so while I was in the kitchen, I was home by myself. I had the knife at my throat. I'm ready to do it. God just whispers in my ear, ask for help. So I go to Facebook. There's a wives community that I was a part of at the time, faith-based. I just say, I'm going to end it. I don't know what else to do. They start sending me text messages, calling me, doing all these things to try to get me not to do it. And then a psychologist from the group calls me, and I answer her call. She brings me down off the ladder. I put the knife down and I just break. And God said to me, if you stop trying to live up to the expectations of being a wife, of being a mom, of being a Christian woman, of being all these different titles and roles and having all these credentials and trying to do all the things, if you could just be the woman that I designed you to be, everything else will benefit. But if you could just be her, like just focus on that. And so for the next couple of years, he walked me through this journey where he helped me identify my emotional wounds. Like I had to name them. like my emotional triggers are rejection, abandonment, and not seen. Everything that happens, I view through that lens. That's why I got to that place. So he helped me name it. And then he showed me why I was behaving the way I was behaving. But then the last thing he showed me were the capacities that I needed to increase in order to get to the place of being the woman he designed me to be. And then it birthed the capacity coach. So the capacity coach is where I'm helping other women increase in their capacities to combat the problematic behaviors that were triggered by their wounds. Wow. So I help remove limiting beliefs. I help them build confidence within themselves. I help them reverse the stinking thinking and the negative talk that they tell themselves, to stop partnering with the lies of the enemy, to stop operating in fear and learning how to activate their faith. So we create a battle kit. And so in my book, I walk through that whole journey that I went through and giving the same resources and journal prompts that God gave me. So it's there, but there's work. There's, you have to answer some questions. You may have to go to some websites. I wanted it to be interactive, hands-on. I also wanted to probe you to come ask me some questions.
Right.
So I gave you just enough, but not all of it.
Right.
So it really does. It's like a walking workbook for me, because in my natural, with the whole disc, I'm a turtle. So I want system and I want processes, and I really want them to break it down so that they can understand it. I don't want people just to read my book and say that was a good read. I want them to read the book and say, wow, I can become who I think I deserve to be.
Yeah.
And start working toward that. So, that's how the book came about. That's the journey. Yeah. And then the whole warrior piece, which is the platform, the Warrior Womanhood. That is because God uses the term Azer, a Hebrew term, when he designed Eve. And that term, when you look it up for Hebrew context, is a great help. But it's also EZER, a term that was referred to warriors for the military, also in biblical use. So when God designed woman, he also designed her as an Azer, also designing her as a warrior, a great help.
I like that.
So warrior womanhood isn't some sweet name. It's the biblical definition of how he designed women to be.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want women to embrace. That's what I had to learn to embrace.
Right.
We are warriors, not go out and battle and be aggressive and be super independent. And I can do this all on my own, because you can't. You were designed to help.
Yeah.
And you can't just be like, I'm a help. You have to help someone. So you're designed to be in relationship.
Yeah.
And to be a helpmeet, you help your husband meet his purpose.
Ooh.
Like there's a design to it.
Ooh.
But you can't do that until you know what your sweet spot is, right? I have to walk in my own level of confidence to be able to help Charles with his purpose.
Yeah.
Or whatever God has called me to do with his purpose. And that just requires a great strength. So our help is equivalent to the way that God could help us in our situation. Like that's how he specifically designed us. And so I need women to know that it's not just some random purpose. It is a help. The help is the purpose. How you do it is sweet and unique to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you came out the gate with the fire. So I hope, listen, for those of you who are watching, those of you who are listening, Ayana is super transparent. I truly appreciate that. When you mentioned the date that you had your experience, 2016, it reminds me of my experience, right? 2015, around November time, I had my mental health challenge, right? I was on the verge of suicide due to feeling, like my life was spinning out of control. And so I'm happy to know that you're willing to overcome that time in your life to be transparent, to share, because that story is going to save somebody else's. When did you decide that it was the right time to write the book? Obviously, if this took place in 2016,
right,
you just recently published. So what made this the right time for you to put this experience in a book and publish it?
It's kind of funny. So Dr. Cheryl Wood, who does speaking coaching all over.
Yeah.
She was doing an anthology, and I was sitting at my kitchen table and I was ready to take myself to the next level. I was like, okay, you're going to have to make some investments. And she happened to do an open call for her anthology, Still Standing. And in it, you could write a chapter. I think it was 1,500 words. And so I, for some reason, what came over me, and obviously there's a reason to it, but what came over me was how God rescued me from my suicide attempt, how a suicide attempt saved my life. I think that's what I was going to call it.
Right.
And so something, I don't know what convicted me at that moment to write about it. And so that was my first attempt sharing that story. So then maybe that was 2020 that I decided to contribute to that book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think maybe a couple of months after, I said I was going to do this core accelerator where I was going to help entrepreneurs really get emotionally connected to their brand, not just something that they do, but I learned your character can't keep your coins. Like you have to have good character. That's the only way you're going to develop consistency in your business, a connection to your business.
Yeah.
And so if your character is messed up, if it's all jacked up, when you go try to do your business, people experience that through customer service.
Right.
I mean, think about it when anybody's having a bad day and then you go in and now their bad day is your bad day.
It's your bad day.
I just came in here to return some jeans.
Yeah.
Now I'm walking out here pissed off at the world.
That's right.
And so when you're a small business, you are customer service. You don't hire, you don't outsource. You have to do it yourself, which means you have to show up. And if your character isn't designed in a way that says, okay, I'm doing this for the sake of, and it's connected to something, like in here, it's connected to something,
right?
Then you're just going to show up nilly-willy. You ain't going to care. Like, because I've worked with a lot of coaches who are like, I am what I am and it is what it is. And I'm like, well, it's not what it's not going to be.
Come on. You preaching
well,
good.
We can't work together.
Good. Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And so I was in the middle of teaching that and God was like, that's not who I told you to talk to. I was on day 4 of a 7-day launch. And I was in the middle of teaching, just like I'm talking now. And God was just downloading, like, that's not who I said. But that's not who I told you to talk to. I told you to talk to the women. I told you to tell them your story.
Come on.
So I finished it. He said, don't you sell a seed. Don't you open that program. Finish your, like, it was like a Kanye. I'm going to let you finish.
Right.
But when you finish, you're going to do what I called you to do.
Wow.
And so I finished that series. I finished the next 3 days. And the very next week, I went live and I told my entire story. And that's what actually kicked off Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. I went live on a Wednesday and technology was messing up. Facebook was glitching. And I was like, yep, God's anointing is on this because here come the enemy. The technology don't work. The technology worked all that 7 days.
Time. Yep, absolutely.
And now the minute I do what God's telling me to do, Instagram not working, Facebook not working, it's going in and out, in and out. And I stayed to it. I told my whole story.
Yeah.
And then an opportunity to write my book came up.
Okay.
And I was like, you have to now tell the whole story.
Come on.
And so that's how it all kind of came about. It started with just an idea. It started with a chapter in someone else's book. And then it brought me to the conviction during a live when I was going to launch about small business. And God was like, that's not what I told you. So that's amazing how you started out in a co-author project in an anthology. And from that experience, it launched you to put together your own solo project. What was the biggest challenge that you faced in putting your book together? It wasn't the writing. It wasn't the publishing. It wasn't any of that stuff. In fact, my mother died in the middle of writing the book. And she was an avid reader. And I mean, like, that was the thing through that kind of got her through childhood reading. And I was just so excited that the next book she was going to read was going to be mine.
Your book.
Was going to be her daughter's book. And COVID hit. I got sick. 3 out of the 4 kids got sick and my mom got sick. So the house was hit. The whole house was hit. We were down hard. It took me a full 5 months to recover fully from getting sick because it was my second time getting COVID. And so it hit worse. But for my mom, she didn't make it. She was sick for maybe about 10 days and then she died. because her body couldn't take it. And that was the biggest setback, but it was also the biggest setup for my book.
Yeah.
Because of it, because of her death, I knew that I had to keep going. She was my warrior. She was it. She was my example.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I didn't tell my story, there was going to be some other woman standing in her kitchen crying because she was ready to give up. And it was just this overwhelming feeling of not on my watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really was a sister's keeper moment. It was just like, you know, I'm wrestling with my mom's death, but she's an avid reader. She would want me to finish. And I know if I finish, it's going to help save or unlock something for another woman.
Yeah.
And that was all I needed. And so it was really a push through. It was a struggle. I lost my voice. It was hard to talk, but I kept going. You know, at that point, my answer was yes and amen. Yeah. That's all I had.
Yeah.
And so that's what kept me going. That's what keeps me going. That's what pushes me to continue to try to sell the book, talk about it on Wednesdays, and just keep pushing the message.
So your book is targeted to women. So if you had to identify, you know, type of groups, like what obviously is women, right? So it's women, but your goal is to reach moms, right? Wives. Okay.
Yeah, they're faith-based. But I will say this, even though my book is geared to women, I have men in my program because it's principle-based.
Okay.
It's not situational based. Like it doesn't just apply because you're a mom. It doesn't just apply because you're a wife. It doesn't just apply because you're a Christian or a believer or of faith. It doesn't just apply in those. Suicide is not prejudice. It will attack anybody. That's, you know, it's a spirit that we partner with. It starts with the, you know, they say that fear is a spirit itself. But within fear, there are many spirits that come and attack us. And some of that is a spirit of suicide, a spirit of death, a spirit of giving up, a spirit of I can't stick with it. And so that can attach to anybody, man, woman, child, an older, you know, an elder. It doesn't really matter. It's not prejudice. So even though my book is catered to women, because I can speak to that very intimately and very personally, because I am one, and because I only know how to be a mom, I only know how to be a wife. It doesn't mean that the principle doesn't apply to anybody else going through them circumstances. I say women because I can speak to it more. I can give you examples. I can reference how I am with my children. I can talk about how I am with my husband. I can talk about being a woman of God and what that really means to me. And some of those examples may not specifically resonate with men, but it's still applicable.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I love your spirit. I appreciate you for being transparent. As we land the plane, I have one specific question that I like to ask people, and then I would love for you to tell everybody how they can connect with you. So in totally different direction here.
Okay.
Let's say you decide to write another book, right? Say you're about to write another book, and self-publishing 30 days was going to pay for you to go anywhere in the world to write this book, right? Where would you travel?
Oh man. I probably say, so a lot of people don't know this, but I've recently moved to Georgia.
Okay.
I was in Boston all my life.
I remember that.
Yeah. So just in July, we transitioned to Georgia.
Okay.
And I would probably say somewhere in this area, but more of like a mountainy cabin, not too secluded, because like Michael Myers is real to me. Okay. That man is real. Okay. I don't want to be in the woods.
Yeah.
But, you know, somewhere that's sort of picturesque, you have a nice view, maybe near some water, a lake, a beach. Because I get inspired just by, if you see my office, it looks just like this on the other side.
Right.
Somewhere where I can just be inspired, somewhere where I can people watch and engage, but also quiet enough for me to calm my mind and really get down to it. A space that has walls, because I like to put up Post-it paper and really flesh out my ideas out loud.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. There's no specific city or location,
Okay.
but that's what the feel of it would feel like.
Have you been to Stone Mountain yet?
No, and I want to go.
So I would encourage you to check that out. And when you go,
Okay,
make sure you take a picture and you send it to me, okay?
I will. I
Um,
absolutely will.
so as we wrap up, as we land the plane, please tell us the title of your book again, and how can people connect with you to get their copy?
Oh, sure. So the name of the book is there's a glare. Girl,
Mhm.
You Are a Warrior, a battle plan to reclaim your voice, your value, and your purpose. You can go to my website at thecapacitycoach.com. Also warriorwomanhood.com. But then you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at The Capacity Coach. And I go live every single Wednesday for Warrior Wisdom Wednesday. And I also share with you there how you can also purchase the book, but you can also get some wisdom on that day as well. So
Love it, love it, love it. Ayana Henderson, you have been a tremendous blessing. Thank you so much for once again being transparent, for sharing. I'm sure that this episode is going to touch so many people's lives. And listen, when you all connect with Ayana, please let her know that you heard about her through Self-Publishing 30 Days. And we want to definitely be a blessing to you as you continue to thrive, Ayana. So thank you.
amen.
Listen, for those of you who are rock with us, you already know what I'm about to say, but if this is your very first time listening to the Author Spotlight, I want you to be encouraged, be blessed, but most of all, continue to operate in your gift and share the faith, right? And the way that you do that is by walking in your gift, because your gift will make room for you. And we'll see you next time. Peace.